As it gets icy cold outside, I'm going to show you some dishes that are perfect for right in the middle of winter. We're going to do a classic marinara sauce. We're going to take that marinara sauce and put it in a chicken bolognese that we're going to serve with a pasta tagliata and a fennel roasted vegetable, my absolute best winter vegetable dish of all time. On top of that, torta di mascarpone cheesecake will blow you away. And we're going to visit Copia, the amazing American center of wine, food of the arts, right here in the Napa Valley. So don't go anywhere.
Michael Chiarello Napa is funded by Sultan, innovative products for a healthy today and tomorrow, featuring a full line of Breadman machines to make artisan breads for use in your own home. Sultan, we'll bring out the baker in you.
By Sunkist, fresh citrus taste, cooking with Sunkist throughout the day. Sunkist, our promise, your inspiration.
By All-Clad Metal Crafters. All-Clad is bonded construction. All-Clad is functional design. All-Clad is professional equipment. All-Clad is a state of mind. By Wolf, makers of ovens, cooktops, and ranges to fuel a passion for cooking.
Do me a favor, don't buy marinara sauce. It's not a big deal. It's like this many ingredients and this much time, and you're going to have a spectacular marinara sauce right in your very own home. To make it, simple as can be. Some extra virgin olive oil in a hot pan. We're going to saute some onions. They're going to saute without any color. We're going to turn them down. Add a little bit of salt like we always do, just to bring the water out of the onion. As soon as the onions soften and are perfect, we're going to add the garlic now. If I added the garlic before, it would be overcooked and it would probably be too brown. So that's going to saute in. We're going to get some light color on that. Add a little prezzemolo, some Italian parsley. Now the tomato, we've milled. We've taken some plum tomatoes, we put them through a food mill so you have a wonderful texture like this. This is going to come up to a simmer. It's going to simmer for about 15 minutes. We're going to season it. A little salt, a little pepper, and a whole basil sprig is going to go right in here because we're going to pull the basil sprig out a little bit later. And she's just going to give her fragrance to this entire thing. Tomatoes don't have nearly the acid they used to when all the recipes were written that say add sugar or cook them forever. If they are a little tart, you can do a couple things. You can add a pinch of sugar, which isn't my favorite thing to do because it just makes it too sweet. A little bit of baking soda. What baking soda will do is neutralize some of that acid. There's a little trick. This is going to simmer nicely. Now I'm going to go on and start my roasted vegetables. When I first met my sweetheart, Eileen was a macrobiotic, which means that she was more than a vegetarian. She had a very, very particular diet, and the only thing that I could really cook for her was this fennel roasted vegetable. So as a red wine producer, I wanted an entree that I could do that was vegetarian, that we could have with a glass of red wine and still celebrate the flavors of my cooking at the same time. Now, roasting vegetables is the same kind of art as roasting meat. I've taken some potatoes, some little Yukon potatoes here. They've been boiled from cold water. Always start potatoes in cold water. A little pinch of salt, because you only have one chance to get salt inside the potato. And they boiled until they're just tender. And then we lay them out on a cookie sheet to cool, and then cut them in half. So we're going to start sauteing these and get the color on these guys first. These take the longest to get caramelization on. And the most important component to the dish, since they're kind of the foundation of this whole thing. Okay, you'll see that it's just starting to caramelize perfectly. I'm going to turn these guys, get their other side going. And the onions, red onions, yellow onions, any onion you you really like. I don't care. If we didn't caramelize these first, the potatoes would never have a side that was free to touch the pan by themselves. The onions will roast fine. We add them in stages so they let go of their liquid. And we use fennel bulbs, cut into spears. Caramelized is just fantastic. So these guys are going to start to go. Carrots go in. You could use any carrots. I have some baby carrots. I blanch these a little bit. Now, if you don't blanch a carrot or a potato first, they get a little, I don't know, dehydrated. They begin to kind of shrink up and get a wrinkle on them that I'm not particularly fond of. Zucchini on top of these. Now the asparagus, I have some asparagus, some very first of the season asparagus. Cold outside, but I love grabbing an ingredient from a season that's just coming in to kind of give you a hint of where we're going. So we're going to add those a little bit later. Now the fennel spice that I use is one of my go-to spices. To make this at home is really simple. You take some fennel seeds, coriander, and white pepper, 3 tablespoons of fennel. You have a tablespoon and a half of coriander, a tablespoon and a half of white pepper, you know, and a couple tablespoons of salt, of good gray salt. Now, don't be afraid to season this. This needs a lot of the fennel mixture. If you don't have time to make a fennel spice, you can just put fennel seeds in here. A little bit of salt on top of my fennel spice. Now, when I say roasting, I'm talking hot. I'm talking 450, 475. We're going to give these about 1 minute on the stove to be sure that everything's up to temperature, because it takes too long in the oven for something to get hot in the middle. So once they get good and hot, in the oven they go. In the meantime, I'm going to show you this chicken bolognese. This is a recipe of mise en place. Mise en place is French for things in place, having your stuff together. So what we've done is we've taken some porcini mushrooms. These are dried porcini, and they're wonderfully fragrant. You could use fresh mushrooms if you like. We've soaked them in some cool water just so they can rehydrate, and they make like a little broth. We have chicken, of course. We have some onion. The onion's gonna get minced. I like this onion minced really finely. We do this the Elliott method. Really, really thin and minced. Cut it in half this way, and then down we go. Okay, saute pan should be hot by now. Extra virgin olive oil goes in. And the onions go right on top. A little pinch of salt to bring out the liquid. Now the garlic, you could do minced garlic, you could do crushed garlic where you just pound on it and just release its flavor. You can do whatever you like. Get a little minced, sliced, I don't really care. So we're gonna give these a couple minutes to soften, and we're gonna come back and finish this guy up. There we go, just some light caramelization on these onions. Now we're gonna mince up some thyme. Thyme is a wonderful wintertime herb. Grows all year round. It's a perennial, which means you don't have to replant it each year. It stays in the ground. Continues to produce, at least in California, all winter long. Parsley goes in. It's an ingredient that's going to fry up nicely in here. Now the chicken. The key step to this dish is really breaking the chicken up and being sure that you have nice little teeny bits of chicken and not big old clumps. So spread it out. As it begins to cook, the onions will get in the middle of the chicken and break it up itself. This is veal. Your veal would go in now, or your sausage, or your beef, or your shrimp. We've done this with shrimp. It's fantastic. Just chop up some shrimp, fish, a little salt, black pepper, Now we're gonna build our flavor. So the white wine goes in, it begins to reduce down. Well, that's reducing. I'm gonna take these porcini mushrooms out and give them a rough chop. The idea here is that you have a little bit of mushroom in every single bite. Oop. They go in, and the mushroom liqueur goes in there. This is one of those dishes, unlike the rest of my stuff, where I tell you to leave it alone, leave it alone. This one you definitely want to mess with and be sure that you get these pieces really nice. We want the chicken to be little bits that are going to sit with the pasta. A little marinara. This isn't really a tomato sauce, this is a tomato flavored sauce itself. So these are going to simmer for about 5 minutes, get all the flavors, let them reduce down together. And we'll grab my pasta. So we went to the pasta shop and we say, no, I like your pasta in the shapes that you do, but I want to do a tagliata. Can I please buy a couple sheets? And they let me buy a couple sheets. So now I'm happy. I've rolled them up. All I've taken was a sheet. I floured the sheet and rolled them up. And when you cut them, don't make them perfect. Do not make them perfect. The idea of a tagliata, this is a tagliata, this is the knife, is you hand cut them. You can cut them any width that you like, but I like them about like this. Now, vegetables. Oh, look at that. Okay? We're going to add our asparagus because they have a very delicate flavor. And we don't want them to roast nearly as much. See if I can't get those around. Asparagus go back in. By the time the bolognese is done, those are going to be perfetto. Okay, so pasta in the water. Okay, boiling water, lots of it. Already salted. My pasta. In she goes. This is only going to take a second. So let's take a look at my veggies. Oh, look at that. Now, remember the olive oil I talked about? I have a little bit of extra olive oil because I wanted them all to caramelize nicely. Dump them out in a colander. Drain them really well. That way we get everything we want flavor-wise, but we're not having to worry about too many calories of oil in there. Look at those. Perfect fennel roasted vegetables. And now we want these to cook together. A little bit of the pasta water for some flavor in here because the pasta still isn't cooked all the way, so it's going to take on a little more liquid. If I didn't do this, you know what happened? Whoop, it would all go, and that'd be a big problem. Oh, you know what I'd love to finish these guys with? There's a bunch of fresh parsley, just cut, just heated through with everything else, roughly cut. Just like that. On top of that, a little Parmigiano, just a little bit here. Oh, and there we have it. And here she comes. A little more Reggiano on top. Now imagine, it's 32 degrees outside. We have these flavors that are just deep and wonderful. When you look at things like this, fennel roasted vegetables, a celebration of the fall brought into winter, any vegetables that you like, wait till you guys try these at home. Well, welcome to Copia. Is this amazing? You know, you think about museums, and when you go to a museum, you're seeing things that you might not ever understand if you're not a painter or an artist or a sculptor. But you know what? We all eat and we all drink and we all have a fond appreciation of art. To see one place put together to celebrate things that are near and dear to my heart, I gotta tell you, it's got the hair up on the back of my neck. So we're gonna go out, we're gonna check this out. What would the wine country be without a wine spectator tasting table where you can come here and taste some very hard to find wines that are amazing little artisan producers. This happens to be a Zinfandel from the other valley, but I love it nonetheless. You guys just leave me here. I'll be with you in a couple hours, all right? No, come on. My favorite condiment of all time. My favorite condiment of all time. You think it's olive oil, don't you? Mustard. Huge mustard fan. As you can see, in celebration of the Napa Valley Mustard Festival, they have an amazing display that has all the accoutrement that goes with mustards. What the definitions are, the stories, the history of mustard. That's what's great here. You get a chance to take an everyday condiment like mustard, read the stories and taste and see the lore. The next time you have a bologna sandwich with some bright yellow mustard on it, guaranteed it'll taste a little bit different. But you know what's classic? Classic in cooking shows. There's only one person, and it's Julia Child, and they did an entire restaurant to celebrate the life of Julia Child. And here it is, Julia's kitchen, right? This is a kitchen not only to celebrate what she stood for food, but what her food sensibilities were. And that's what we talk about with food, of having a sensibility, that everything's in balance, the flavors are a particular way, and most importantly, that we get a chance to show the respect where respect is deserved. The queen of American cooking on TV, Julia Child. Before we as chefs were cooking in kitchens like this, we are cooking on a hearth, an outdoor kitchen. You're going to see an amazing outdoor amphitheater. We're joined by Daphne Durbin now, who's the food curator for Copia, and at this point is doing the cure part of her curator and curing a wood-burning oven that they just built in what's going to be a spectacular outdoor cooking theater. What's accessible? I mean, is it accessible for the average?
Yes, and that's one of the things about Copia. We are offering programs for the general public, for someone who's just curious. If you only have 5 minutes, we even have little walk-up programs where you might taste a different kind of salt or mustard. If you have more time, you can take an intense class, maybe with someone like yourself or one of the staff. I might teach a 4 or 5 hour class in how to use a wood-fired oven and how to cook with fire, which is, of course, the original way we used to cook.
Come on in.
Well, Betty, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, my pleasure. It's great to see you.
For those of you at home, Betty Teller is the director of exhibitions at Copia. And not only the exhibition that we're at now, but all the exhibition spaces. And this is Fork in the Road.
Forks in the Road.
Forks in the Road.
Yes, it's an exhibition where we look at what's American in food and wine. But before we actually started, this section isn't about America, obviously. It's about what's universal in food and wine. So we start with the ancient world, give people a little orientation to it.
Ancient as it relates to gathering and food and wine and around the table?
Yeah, human behaviors, domestication of plants and animals, cooking with heat, using things like fermentation, and coming together socially to eat together over food. This is Forks in the Road. We're looking at what's American in food and wine in this exhibition. And you see a lot of different displays because we don't have a national cuisine. It's not like you could just do a display on the foods that are American. But what we do have is a lot of shared traits.
Copia, the American Center of Wine, Food, and the Arts. Celebrating food, celebrating wine, looking for ways to bring people together with the common good right at the dining room table. And with gardens like this that celebrate not only gardening, right, but the gathering of people together for food. The reason that I live is to share with you at home and myself and my friends and people that I love around me around the table how rich our lives can be when we celebrate the meaning of our lives our way. Who doesn't love cheesecake? I mean, cheesecake is an American classic. Now, Italians love cheesecake. They call it a little torta di mascarpone. Mascarpone is Italian cream cheese, and it's not quite as firm. It's very soft, very easy to make, actually. But we're going to mix it with a little bit of regular American cream cheese. Now when you're buying American cream cheese, look for old-fashioned on it. It doesn't have so much gum and stuff in it, but you need a mixture of 50-50 to get it to set right. But first for the crust, instead of Oreos, we're going to do a biscotti crust. So you buy a bunch of biscotti and they end up kind of broken up in the bottom of your biscotti tin. Don't fret. Just grind them up, put them in a food processor, or roll them out with a rolling pin. And you have some beautiful biscotti crumbs right here. We're going to mix them with a little bit of butter that I've melted, some sweet butter. We're going to mix these up. Now with the springform pan, we're going to butter it a little bit. We're going to butter the entire thing. And put in our biscotti pieces right in the bottom. Spread them around nice and evenly, and then just press them in. We're going to wrap this whole thing in foil, twice actually, and we're going to throw it in the refrigerator. The foil's there because when we put the cheesecake mixture into the oven, we're going to put it in a water bath, and the springform pan obviously has holes in the bottom of it, and we don't want the water to get in or any of our custard to get out. Now the custard's very simple to make. All you do is take the cream cheese, go into a mixer. The cream cheese goes in with some superfine sugar, and it's going to beat together. We want to get some air into this mixture right now, and as it's beating a couple of minutes, we're going to crack in 3 eggs, one at a time, and that's going to make our custard. We're going to finish it with some lemon zest, some lemon juice, and of course, mascarpone. All right, springform pan should be cool enough to put this custard in. All right, so all we do is pour the custard right into the bottom. Okay, goes right into a pan like this. We have a tea kettle with some hot water. You don't want to put cold water in here because it would take too long for the water to get hot in the oven. What this does is it gives you a really even cooking of the custard. If you didn't cook it in water, you'd end up with some little bubbles in the inside. Okay, right in a 350-degree oven for an hour. And we'll pull this guy out, let it cool, and grab a fork. That guy is just perfect. Now what you have to do is let it cool in the bain-marie that it's in so it gets to the right texture. If you pull it out, it's going to get too dry. Nice and easy. Okay, gentle now. Take a little knife, free up the sides. There you have it. A little powdered sugar. What I have here is some hot water. If you just put a knife through there, oftentimes you'll kind of drag a rough edge on the cheesecake, and we don't want that. That gives us a clean slice. You pull it back, you see that? You want to rinse that off and go back for your second slice. Up underneath the crust. Looky there. What I love about cooking in the winter is you take a day that's cold outside, you park yourself in the kitchen a little bit, you surround yourself with some friends and family, and you cook some dishes that have some meaning. Every dish today has some special meaning to me. Oh, unbelievable. Middle winter outside, just cold as can be, fennel roasted vegetables. Flavors as rich as the wine is what you need to drink with this. And you know what? There's some great Italian varietals being grown in California. One of them is dolcetto, so find a bottle, cook some chicken bolognese, and have a smile. Salud.
Michael Chiarello Napa is funded by
Sunkissed, fresh citrus taste, cooking with Sunkissed throughout the day. Sunkissed, our promise, your inspiration.
By Sultan, innovative products for a healthy today and tomorrow, bringing you the family of George Foreman's lean, mean, fat-reducing grilling machine. Sultan, the secret to indoor grilling. By Wolf, makers of ovens, cooktops, and ranges to fuel a passion for cooking. And by All-Clad Metal Crafters,